Hey guys, this is Rainwolf from Convention Video. I am here with,
This is Kirito Silverheart.
This is Asuna Silverheart.
And this is Lyria.
and I'm going to let Kirito pronounce the name of this because I'm probably going to slaughter the hell out of it.
So the way my day's been going, I'm not sure I'm going to do that much better. Tonight we're discussing Yashahime, Princess Half Demon.
So this is a very interesting jump in things. It's been years since I have watched Inuyasha or anything of that sort. What is the last thing anyone remembers that actually has watched it?
I don't even remember where I stopped, honestly.
I believe I finished it. So I remember Inuyasha they actually came to modern time. I remember all her friends were just shocked because there was her bad boyfriend was there, and because up to that he was just like an enigma. He was like an imaginary thing. Like all her friends, it was a scandalous type deal. She was just always missing school and running around with this guy, and that's been so long ago. I don't really remember other than that. I mean, I remember,
It's one of those memorable, funny moments that even though the rest of the series was there, it's like you remember it, but you don't fully remember it until you actually watch it again.
Yeah, it's like I totally remember, I remember everything. Like I could tell you probably 45 pages of all the history of Sesshomaru. Like I know everything there is to know about Sesshomaru. But God, it's been a long time.
And for me, I'm probably going to get blacklisted by a big chunk of the community. I've never really actually watched Inuyasha or read the mangas or anything. So I'm kind of a teetotal noob. I've seen episodes here and there, and I know enough about it just from the pop culture and anime culture that I've been introduced to throughout the years. The only thing I actually remember really from the show was an episode of the priest monk. He unwraps his hand and creates a giant vortex and sucks in all these giant bug demons and ends up getting massively infected.
Yep,
That
I
is-
remember that one.
That is one of the
Mhm.
memorable moments.
So that's about my real extent with the series. So I'll be coming into this relatively blind.
So let's go ahead and start off this episode. Kind of interesting to see that one of the twins has already pretty much been captured.
Yeah, that I take that as like a really light term because they do she was very much like, she was like, you're not gonna like it when my friends get here. Just so you're aware, it's gonna be a bad time for you. But yeah, and they have some things that are of interest. They had it looked like almost like a traveler's guide or like companion
It
guide.
did really look like a traveler's guide for like tourists.
It did. It was very like touristy looking, and it did look like, and they had spoke of Tokyo, so they did speak of Japan. So it was like a modern tourist guide, which they
Mhm.
thought it was. I don't know if they thought it was some ancient text or witchcraft or book or I don't know what they thought it was. And yeah, and then they also had the bicycle seat.
And by looks of it, I think it's Kagome's old seat because
It is. It is. It was Kagome's. I had to explain that to Kirito. He was not sure what was going on there. He was like,
I was like, bicycle seat question mark.
yeah, so I explained that to him a little bit. I had to give him pretty much a brief history rundown of what it was. And I'd say there's a lot of people who don't remember Inuyasha. I said there's a whole generation of younger that do not remember Inuyasha at all. Even for me, I think I was middle school,
I was
which I'm dating myself maybe, or high school, like early high school when it first came out, like years and years ago.
I read the manga way before it came on Cartoon Network, and then I watched the anime. So I'm kind of confused of my timeline and when I was actually introduced to it because I read the manga like 5 years before it actually came or the anime came out.
I remember I had a couple friends and I'm not gonna say bootleg. We would get it from sites and it was still like Japanese and it was still like fan dub at the beginning. Like it was
did
back
fan
in the day.
dubs of Inuyasha.
Fan dubs.
Oh.
And then, of course, eventually it came on like Cartoon Network late at night. And it was probably one of the first animes that
OG Toonami.
yeah, my
Mhm.
sisters and myself watched together because they were much younger than I was. So it was one of those that I felt comfortable enough to let them watch without too much concern, So but I remember it. It's been a long time though.
The kiddos, they've been watching the original. They're excited to be able to watch the new one, but it's in Japanese right now, so they can't.
Oh,
Well, they can't stand subtitles.
They can't.
well, one of
fast
them
enough.
4. Like, I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yes. And then now after their whole conversation, and it's nice of what they actually transitioned it over to after this whole discussion with the twin, the tour guide, and then the bike seat. It shows Inuyasha at the well, sticking his hand out to Kagome, and then Kagome comes through, and then coming to find out that at this point, it's been nearly 6 months since she has decided to stay in feudal Japan.
It was very nostalgic.
It was.
It had a very nostalgic feel to it. It was very much, that memories through the corner of your mind type thing. It also, it did try to give a little bit of backstory and
It gave a
explanation.
refresher, in my opinion, because it's like you didn't really remember a lot of it unless you went back and watched a lot of it before this was released.
And it did pop up like in the quarter. Yeah, it's like I remember things about it, but it's been a very long time ago, and it's been it's a lot. It was a very big series. If that was probably, it's a pretty epic series. So yeah, and they did. I kind of liked how they popped up with like who people were. This is so and so's brother. This is so and so's wife. This is which. In one way it was good, in another way I felt like man, there was a part of me with that it felt kind of demeaning to the women.
Oh, you're talking when they were at the water and
yeah, at the very beginning, when after the they
opening
do
scene.
yeah, the opening scene, they're down by the lake, and Kagome comes down there, and there's all, how many kids were there? There's like 9 of them
3.
damn kids.
She has 3.
There were
She has
3.
the twins and
The baby.
Which they just started right out there, didn't they? They didn't waste any damn time. They were like,
Moroku, though.
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. I'm not shocked because
Moroku's been after that tail for a long time.
Moroko's been after any tail for the whole time. Like,
But also
the lecherous monk.
It was to the point where he wasn't cursed anymore. So
Yes.
that was the one thing that for years that prevented him from wanting to have children. He did not want his child to have that curse.
To be cursed, yeah. Well, if I remember correctly, it was also consuming him, wasn't it? He was going to die.
Yeah, it was going to
like, so that was another reason he didn't want to,
put it through another generation.
Yeah, so, he was going to, because he would probably die and leave this poor child with it. And like he said, but then there was no time wasted. He was just like, all right, let's get to baby making.
Well, and also you got to think for Sango.
Sango she was, they were very much a tribal culture.
They're a demon hunter tribe, so making offspring sooner the better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the more kids you can have, the more the tribe can continue its work. So,
So I mean, it kind of did make sense that they did have like 3 of them, but I feel they did Sango a disservice by just being like, this is Moroku's wife, and I was like, bitch,
it really did.
I was like, she is badass, which they do a little bit later. It kind of does pop in and show like what a badass she is, but I was a little offended at
As
first.
they're walking back, I don't know if anybody else had a sus feeling about this owl.
I immediately caught it because they called it out. I mean, I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but they called it out in the subtitles and stuff. It actually said, so and so 4-eyed demon of whatever. Which my one complaint so far, just trying to take in this whole series just from the get go, is for somebody like me who's coming into this relatively blind, it feels really fast paced. Like it felt really rapid fire with its information and stuff. But it didn't also help that obviously I'm watching this on subtitles. And so like I've got the subtitles in this part of the screen and I'm having to look at everywhere else on the screen too to try to read other subtitles while I'm keeping up on the conversation.
It probably didn't help me either, like chiming in and trying to explain it to him too. I'm mansplaining to him. What's going on here?
I can see where the fast pace is coming from, because it's kind of they were trying to make the first episode, they might lean it into the second episode as well, but into somewhat a refresher for the fandom.
If I remember Inuyasha anyway, it kind of started out that way too, that you learn more information as you go. Like it very much starts out of you are
throw
walking
a lot
into
at you.
this. Yeah, you're just kind of walking into this blind, and
that's exactly how it is, because we started rewatching the series, and it just kind of shoves you into it, and you slowly learn things.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're going that route again. But it is, as he said, it was a little, at first, he was a little discouraged and confused where he's not watched the other series. He was like, what is going on? So I had to give him a brief rundown of some of it.
Yeah, it was mostly just trying to keep up with who was talking, when they were talking, and like picking up all the little bits of data that they were dropping just rapid fire. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like animes that just kind of throw you in the middle of it and explain it as you go. But at the same time, for somebody who's coming in, it just felt a little too accelerated.
Definitely see that.
And then we have a little fight scene with Maruku and Inuyasha fighting this root monster.
And I still love how Inuyasha gets no respect. Like, he's Rodney Dangerfield of demons, and they're just like, oh, thank you, fine monk. And he was like, I'm the one that killed it. So mad.
Still an angry boy.
Yeah,
Very angry boy.
And the thing is, even with the time, I know right now the scenes they're giving us for Inuyasha, Kagome, and all of them, it's still like fairly early after the whole series has ended.
Mm-hmm.
I think that even for Inuyasha being a half demon, he really looks like a child.
He still does look like, yeah, and that's the bad part. Like, he still does very much look young. Also, there's
But
something.
he looked older in the older. It's like he still had that
It could be
olderish
the animation.
look. Yeah.
But, he is also, like you said, he's not going to age the same. Like, he's not. He's just not. But it was, like, I think, too, Moroku's very much, it's like, it's just a natural thing for them still just to thank the monk. They're not going to thank the half demon. Oh, fine monk, you've saved us all. I think it's just a very natural thing. And, of course, Moroku's just like, oh, you're very welcome. Like, he's just going to take and run.
And then after all that, the root demon's already killed another group of people, a horse. Then we run into Suzaku's little brother flying on Kalala.
Has he always, when did he get, like,
Kalala?
No, when he aged. Like, did he age?
Near the very end of the series, the original
he
series.
aged up that quickly? I just remember him being a kid for so long.
There was a time gap, like a little time jump
Yes,
at
there
the end
was.
of it.
Yeah, you're right.
It wasn't a massive time jump, but it was a big enough to like close out close out the original story in a manner.
Because for a minute there, I was like, man, how much time has passed?
What kind of throws me for a loop is that her little brother is calling him Lord Shishomaru.
Yes, and
confused me.
Master Jocken. Yeah, did you see that? Anybody else?
Yeah.
Also, where the hell's Ren?
Ren was there.
We'll see her. We'll see her soon.
I didn't see her. I don't remember.
Well, yeah, it's after the scene, I think, actually, when they go, because they're tracking the root demon down, or the root head, and Shishomaru's also calling it a vermin. He's like, it's not complicated, it's just annoying.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's kind of how he felt about Inuyasha, though, too.
Yeah. But they were half brothers. And if you notice that resentment he has for his brother and humans itself is not as strong or even existing.
Well, it had faded a lot anyway. It had faded quite a bit.
By the end of the original.
Yeah, I think, Rin was part of it. I think also, the different fights they had been together. He had, people had helped him. All of them had come together and really helped him too. So I think, he was very much, the resentment was gone. It wasn't quite the same. Still, is he still an arrogant asshole? Yes, it's Shishomaru.
Oh, yeah.
He's always going to be an arrogant asshole. It's fantastic and I love it. And I expect no less.
I'll say I like him already at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has always been. He's like, I've had a love-hate relationship for Shishomaru.
I think a lot of people have, but I always loved Shishomaru.
We were middle school teenage girls when we were introduced to Shishomaru, so that was
part
of it for me.
Yeah, I think that was part of it too. The tattoo, I have some Japanese kanji tattoo, and the guy who did that, I remember he had a giant side piece of Shishomaru that was fucking amazing. Like, it was just gorgeous, and I was like, I fangirled so hard over that. I think that was a whole generation. There was like a whole generation there of like, that just loved him, and I still do, always will. One of my favorites. And I got super excited when I saw Jocken for some reason. There was something in me that just was like, oh my god, I love that little guy.
The only way they're gonna leave, or you're not gonna have Jocken anymore, is if they killed him off. That's the only
and
way.
I would be so sad. And
That would be horrible.
Shishomaru would go John Wick and take everybody out. Like,
sad to say, I could actually see that because
he would go John Wick, like hardcore.
My puppy.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's the relationship they kind of have.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the little fire because we kind of skipped over it earlier, but the arrow that they found, they're talking with Lady Kagata, the old lady.
Mayday.
Which actually means maple leaf in Japanese. So it's Granny Maple Leaf, if you will. Like, that's what I...
They're talking to her, they find out, and it's another demon that Kikyo did not decide not to kill.
She bound it.
She
Poor
just was tired
Kikyo.
and just decided to seal it away.
She's like, somebody else can deal with this BS. I got too much other stuff to do.
Inuyasha and everybody fucking else. Then it jumps over that the twins are on Shupo, messing with them in the hut.
Shupo, when they were screaming Shupo, I got excited about that too. I'm not gonna lie. And Shupo's just like, they're like, oh my god, why is this my life?
Ren is actually right there when they zoom out the first time. She's actually making that rope.
I did not. I totally missed that part. I'm kind of sad I missed it, but I totally missed that. So I'm a little sad, and I do apologize to everyone.
And she is older. They gave her. She's grown a little bit. She's not as short, and she actually looks.
She looks a little bit more adult. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I'd hope she's not as short. She wasn't quite as short for the end of the series, anyway. Yeah, she had definitely aged up some.
She had more of a pre-teen going into teen look rather than being a small child.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, when we were talking about when they announced the release for this, I think we estimated her to be around 13 or 15 by the end of the Inuyasha series.
Roughly, that sounds about right. Because we were doing some math on it to figure a few things out, and that sounds right to me. She is like,
Then we have the root demon attacking the hut, coming to find out, and then now she's pissed at Inuyasha again because he's hiding things again.
He asked, he's like, "Are you mad at me?" And she's just like,
but the thing is, it wasn't her.
Yeah.
It was Shupo in his little transformation. Because if it was Kagome, she would have just said, "Sit, boy."
Yeah, pretty much. Which she does eventually. That happens too. But that was a funny moment too. That was also something I had to explain because it is weird. So they go to take the root demon on, and yeah, I did think it was. I wish they'd have gave a little bit more explanation, like Kirito said, for newer people about Kagome and Kikyo and that whole ordeal, because it is a little confusing.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, it's going to be a little bit it's going to throw them off a little bit. So yeah, I kind of do wish they would have explained that just a little bit more.
Yeah, just for the new people coming into the series, because obviously this series is not going to be. You don't have to have full back knowledge to watch it. It's just more nostalgia and determining on how they take it, how it's going to be when they go through the story.
And I think that's going to be kind of my gauge going forward from here, is just to see how easy is it for somebody who's completely unfamiliar with the original series to be able to kind of pick this up and go with the story.
Yeah, because he's not, he has no idea. And that was one of the things. We were going to watch some episodes. There was a part, but then I think things happen. But also I think it was kind of a good idea too to have someone who's not seen and doesn't have any knowledge outside of this to kind of get their gauge for how this goes and what they think. And like you said, just to kind of gauge how good this is, because we may be blinded a little bit by nostalgia. Nostalgia is very powerful, and we are a very nostalgic generation too. That's actually one of the things when they talk about us. They talk about how nostalgic of a generation we are. Oh, the good times, So it's going to be really helpful to have him not necessarily knowing what's going on. And, we go back and forth, and I'll explain a few things because he didn't understand. He was like, so this is kind of I had to explain to him, this is a time travel anime, is how he put it. I never had really thought of that when I watched it the first time, but it is. It's a time travel anime. It's not necessarily in the same realm as like Steingate or something intense like that, it's, not even close, but it is still, it's a time travel anime, so I think that's kind of something. This is going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Which honestly, I think back in the day, if somebody had told me that aspect of it way back when, that probably would have brought me into to watch the original series. Everybody back then was just like, oh yeah, it's about this, half demon, and he is like, may or may not be falling in love with this human chick, and they're looking for these crystal things. I'm like, okay, cool.
I'm looking, and I'm actually paused at one of the scenes right now as we're going through this, and I don't remember if this is correct or not, but isn't normally his eyebrows white as well as his hair? I don't know if this was a mistake in editing.
I'm gonna look at the picture.
Oh yeah, I'm like having this moment too now. I don't know.
No, in all the
animation's completely different too.
His eyebrows are black.
Of course, it's gonna be.
Okay, for some reason I always thought his eyebrows were always white as well.
You know, I
They
looked up
may have thought
pictures.
not to do that because that is going to, oddly enough, eyebrows are very definitive to a person's face. So they may
Yeah.
not have wanted to age them that
Yeah.
much because they will age you if your eyebrows are white.
So to continue on, we have Mount Inuyasha, as always, as I would like to call it. Kagome's on his back. They filled her in. He's having the thought of, is she mad at me?
Which is usually a pretty common thing that he has. That's usually the second question he usually asks. Are you all right? And then, are you mad at me? Are usually the two questions that usually he needs to ask.
Well, as the series was going and the developing of their relationship or friendship/relationship, there was a lot of love and hate growing. And then once, as obviously with the 6 months after the whole original series that she spent there becoming a priest, an actual priestess, and actually having the time where they're not having life or death. So
I think I'm curious though what the root demon has to do with the rest of the story.
that's what I'm thinking too. It's like
You saw it go into the tree, right?
at the very end, yes.
And, they were battling him. They go through this whole ordeal. Kagome kind of does the killing blow with him.
I think one of the interesting scenes during the whole fight, definitely when there's the branches off of the root demon that they're obviously there's the piece that's fighting Kagome. Actually, a little beforehand, when Maruku was actually making the comment of noticing how powerless he actually is without the wind tunnel.
Yeah, he really is. Like he's not. You can tell he's not as strong
and
as he used to be.
He's sad about it. It
And
depresses him.
I kind of feel bad for him. Yeah, the feels pulling at the heartstring there.
Then her her brother, reaches the cabin where she's at, the children are at, and Rin. And the one comment that comes out of Sango's mouth is like, why aren't we being attacked? And then once she walks out of the cabin and notices Shishomaru hovering there above the cabin, it was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, she was like, he's been hanging out there, just waiting, just checking on you guys, making sure everything's all right.
Well, with him being a full demon and with how powerful he is, even with how the root demon, he's a strong demon, but he's nowhere near Shishomaru's strength.
Right.
Oh,
So
no.
his
Well,
presence
of course he's not going to be.
His presence their father was the king.
Yeah, I mean, Shishomaru's always been a badass. He was, look how long he was pretty much a villain. He was their major antagonist for the first 3 seasons.
He was kind of like an anti-villain and came down to it.
Yeah, and when he turns into an he becomes
anti-hero,
an anti-hero. Yeah, he becomes an anti-hero. But for a good first 3 seasons, he was kind of an asshole. Like I don't think anyone really liked him. Everybody was kind of like, God, this guy sucks. Kill him, get rid of him, do something. Why is he beating up on you guys? But yeah, it's also I like Sango had that moment, and if somebody's not familiar, like you're thinking, oh, this poor woman and all her 30 kids, and then she's just like,
nope.
She throws that board and she's just like, nope, not happening.
She threw her brother with the children. It's like, you watch them. I'm going out here.
Yeah, she was like, oh, I'm out.
That actually was a pretty funny scene.
She's like, I am out. Hold this baby. Hold my baby.
Talk about how much I fangirled over her, and that was the greatest moment because Sango is one of my original waifus, and she just throws off the dress and she's in her demon slaying gear with her giant boomerang and just kicks ass, and it was great. That's my girl.
The one thing is like that kind of really threw me for a loop was when they're finishing off the root demon, not the Windscar, but the form that the Tensaiga took. I don't remember that form where it became like the Galaxy almost.
It was the Tensaiga. I thought the Tensaiga was Inuyasha's and the Tensaiga was the other one.
Tensaiga was the other one, yes.
Where it turned black.
Okay, yeah.
It's called Mindo Zen something, where it had that orb of just galaxies, and it just pretty much like a black hole took in the root demon.
I don't know if it was something maybe they wanted to do with.
Then again, it could have happened in the later series. It's just later in the original, and I just don't remember it.
See, I don't recall it either. But also, there's a part of me that wants to think, it might have just been animation at that time is not what animation is now. So
Very
that's a possibility of it too. But I don't recall it either. But it's been so long. I do know there was something, where and it's like they did discuss about it. They discussed this is where they throw the pieces of demons they've destroyed so that the demons evaporate into the void. I don't know if that's part of it or not. But there's still a piece. Like they don't get everything. Like he looks over at Kagome after, they've destroyed it and and she gets rid of like the remnants, what's supposed to be the
Yeah,
remnants.
she
There's like this
purifies the rest
little
of the ground.
piece of like slimy that's left, and it crawls up in that tree.
Yeah, it's pretty much outside of the purification.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it funny that she's going to always take this advantage over Inuyasha. And this would annoy me the hell out of me. It's like, because he gets all mad that it's like, why'd you do that? It's like, oh, I know you're always going to save me.
She knows that, and also I think she feels like she can take care of herself. She actually, and she says something about it. She's like, if this was Kikyo, would you say anything? And she's like, now shut up. And
that was interesting.
yeah, and that's one of the things, the relationship, where they talk about Kikyo. I don't know how that's going to play into anything either later. I mean, it was a huge part of the series.
If I remember correctly, Kikyo technically is gone now, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Kikyo is gone. There is no more, but
her spirit was finally put to rest, but also the one that pretty much brought her back as a spirit is dead.
Yeah, there's no more of Kikyo, but there's still it's always going to be brought up because it was a huge part of the series.
Yeah,
I think that'll always be something that's discussed and people talk about when you talk about Inuyasha. Plus, she was a huge character, and a lot of the things she did governed what happened after.
It kind of helped progress the story. Her character kind of helped move things along.
Well, and this was her fault. I mean, if you want to be honest, there's been a lot of things.
Just killed every demon that she came across stuff instead of sealing their asses.
Yeah, if she hadn't been so lazy, we wouldn't have had an original series.
Well, I think there was a part of her too. It's not necessarily lazy. I think she always carried that guilt with what she had to do with Inuyasha, and I think she kind of had a weird guilt to it. If that makes any sense.
I think we still would have had an original series because of the Shakeon Jewel, but the story would have been a lot different.
Yeah, and they bring up the Shakeon Jewel, and because that's something the Root Demon's looking for. The Root Demon also brings up that he thought Kagome was Kikyo. Nope.
Well, he's been sealed for generations.
Yeah, and then I mean, she's yes, but no. It's kind of like,
well, she's her reincarnation,
but no. Yeah, for anyone who hasn't, just for anybody, that's actually one of the things that I explained to Kirito. I didn't bring up the whole stuff about Kikyo's spirit and all that. Like there's a whole level of other stuff.
I kind of got the gist of it, just from the dialogue in the animation, but having the little bit of backstory provided by Asuna was a little bit more helpful.
More clarity.
It's something I would definitely need to go back and kind of experience.
And then after all this filler, well, not really filler, but just a nice nostalgia moment into the series.
It was kind of a brief rundown. It kind of tried to introduce characters so people kind of knew who they were talking about, or people who have seen it before, they would remember what happened.
Yep. We're back to the white-haired twin at the capture of the bike seat, and then one of the guys is like, we're being attacked.
I just want to know, how common were twins in feudal Japan? Because
well, you got to think.
Sango and Moroku had a set of twins. Apparently, Gome and Inuyasha had a set of twins. There were a lot of twins.
The twins are not Kagome and Inuyasha's.
Those are Sesshomaru's.
Those are Sesshomaru's. Yes, they're Sesshomaru's children.
Are you sure about that?
Yep. Those are Sesshomaru's, and the little black-haired girl with the red outfit, that's Inuyasha.
Well, I figured she was, but I thought the little white-haired one was one of the twins. I thought it was the
Nope.
Oh,
and I just read the undertext.
Because I thought the tall one. I figured the tall one was
Sesshomaru's
because she has
boa-looking thing.
Yeah.
Well, her personality, the fur, the spear,
It
kind of really gives off that Sesshomaru.
Yeah, the vibe.
But you also got to think the other one was split like at a very young age, was taken to the modern realm.
Yeah, and you got that. That changes some stuff.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I love the pantsuit.
I
love the pantsuit on the one twin, the white-haired one.
Yeah,
just because she is so diametrically different than everybody else in that room. But I was also looking at her. I'm like, wow, did you like raid Yu Yu Hakusho's wardrobe or some shit?
And what throws me really off right here is the blade that Inuyasha's daughter is carrying right now. That's not Tensaigo.
No, it's obviously not.
There's a dragon carved into the base of the blade.
There's so many things we still have.
And she's a bounty hunter.
Yeah. And there's a lot of questions we're still going to have.
Why the fuck is she a bounty hunter?
I don't know.
And she has the bow is common. Well, she picked up the bow. But the thing is, she doesn't know her parents. So what?
Well, they never confirm. They don't
Well,
fully
they've-
say that yet. They
And
I was
have
going to say
said
this
in
is
the
this is
note.
information that we've come across
Yeah.
from outside
pre-
sources. This isn't part of the actual discussion in the episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the pre-announcements and stuff. Yeah, but we still haven't gotten a complete confirm on anything.
True.
So until we actually see it play out, then we really don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
so we're just kind of. This is one of those things where it's a wait and see type deal.
I am really interested in that blade though, because the dragon
Oh,
glowed,
yeah.
and I'm like, what other blade is strong enough to have maybe a transformation form or something besides?
I have a feeling what we saw in the little teaser at the end
Mhm.
for next week's episode, that we're going to get some of these answers next week. We started here with the nostalgia and the catch up for the fan base from Inuyasha to see all the old characters again and to kind of figure out where this is taking place in the continuity. But I think that next week we're actually going to start saying, okay, well, this is how they ended up in this situation,
Yeah,
and
this
this
is
is what's going on.
where we've come to
Yeah.
get here. And I think that's what I think we're all ready for that already, but there's a lot of people who aren't, who still are
And
trying
I'm
to get
wondering
comfortable
what
with
these
it.
3 beads are.
Yeah, the 3 beads. I think that's some representation of their powers, for oddly enough.
Because the jewel doesn't exist in this world. Keyword, world.
What other worlds are
That
there?
they,
Yeah,
besides
there's
the modern era.
or how do we know that they're not in a different world right now? And somehow that owl demon has followed them over into it. And what's up with the owl demon? And I mean, there's a lot of questions. And who
Yeah, 'cause-
slept with Shishomaru with sour
That's
ass
one
as
of the
a
biggest
kid?
questions.
What we need these questions answered. Who did
You know,
he
Yeah,
sleep
why-
because
with?
why
the
do I wanna
first time
know?
we saw that owl demon, that was during the, I guess,
It's in that time frame after the original story has ended.
yeah, we see it perched up in a tree as some of the other characters are from the original series
It's
are
from
walking.
Inuyasha and Suzaku, or not Suzaku,
Mango.
Sango are walking back from the lake.
Mhm.
Yeah, is when we first
It
see
was
it, and then
watching
it
them,
comes
yeah.
back in the, I guess you could say, modern, like the current time frame that we're supposed to be focused in.
Yeah, and looking at these after credits, it does look like we're gonna get the somewhat filled in of the separation between the twins, and also it looks like a little peek of the modern world. Because if you looked at the fencing around that tree and where the centipede came out of, it really looks like somewhere in the modern time.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I'm excited. It does look like, yeah, we did get the preview. There's a lot more that we need to learn. There's a lot more we need to find out. And, hopefully it answers some of these questions we have about things.
And I know I brought this up with Lyria earlier in the chat. Who else thinks that the opening and the closing fit and actually kind of set the pace of the way the series is going to go?
It kind of does. Like I did like the theme song. I did like the song.
Yeah, the animation and the music that they've picked for just
Excellent.
this opening and closing have pretty spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'm not that familiar with the lore and everything behind it, but from what I'm kind of getting the impression of so far, this seems pretty accurate and spot on. And anybody that listened to our War of Underworld series that we just wrapped up last week, you'll know that I am a big stickler of, does the opening and closing fit into what's going on in the series? SAO was guilty of that. They gave so much away in foreshadowing on those opening and closings. So I'm really paying attention to these openings and closings to kind of get little details and hints on what's going to take place in the series.
Anyone else have any last comments for this first episode?
No, I'm just excited. I'm excited to see where it goes. I know you're excited. We just, it's pretty much a wait and see type deal with this one. We don't really know where it's going or how it's going to play out. I'm just shocked they decided to do it. Like, it's been so long, but I'm excited for this.
And
This is
the
something different.
One last comment I'm going to make on is like not even the series, but as last for SAO, it was me and Kirito that were taking over. As so far of this, just this episode, it has been Asuna and Lyria.
Hi guys.
Sorry, this is what we're familiar with.
They're taking over.
Yeah, this is what we know. This is how it goes.
So I hope everyone that has joined us, that's been viewing, even if you haven't made any comments, stick around. If you are interested in any of the other content we've released, head over to YouTube and type in convention video. I'll post a link in the chat as well so that you can go straight to it. Besides our SAO podcasts, we have coverage from other conventions that we have attended normally throughout the year, such as KatsuCon, Yamakon, Neko, Show, AMA, number of cons on the East Coast. So stick around. Hope to see y'all next week. Well, this is Rainbow.
This is Kirito Silverheart.
This is Asuna Silverheart.
And Lyria.